So, what did you get for your 18th birthday? I got a ring for my 18th birthday and a beautiful party as well, a brilliant party as well. So I had a great time. So what did you get? Well, let's meet Roger Bigwood from Little Baddow. He gave his son Owen a hair transplant. He paid £3,000 for the operation to boost his son's confidence. Even had his own hair transplant done the following day. I've looked at some of the video of this and whoa, lordy, lordy. He joins me now. Good morning to you. Morning,
Hey,
Roger.
good morning. Good morning.
Hey. So why did you buy your son a hair transplant? We heard some of it in the news, but why did you?
Well, it sounds a little bit of a sensational kind of thing to do, and conscious that others have pointed the stereotype of finger of we live in Essex. But I think it was prompted more by my wife than anything. We have six kids, and I think she saw before me that when on his sort of 17th year that he really started to his hair was really thinning. It was really obvious, and at such a young age, I think like every mum does, they try and protect their kids, not to wrap them up in cotton wool, but she really noticed that this was really young, this was really premature, and that otherwise a really bubbly character and a guy that would always come forward, that he was just starting to sit back and not to really get involved in everything, that it was really affecting him. And so she kind of brought it to my attention, and I didn't really need to be convinced too much. I often do. I'm a little bit tight, but she just, I saw that because actually it was a throwback to when I was a really young man, just at the same age, and I lost my hair there. It hasn't, it's been so long that I was totally over that, but and has not really affected me. But anyway, so her heart really went out for that, and so we were fortunate enough to be able to do something about it, and so we did, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
And how did it go down? I mean, obviously, as you're saying, it affected his confidence that he was losing his hair at such an early age as well. You sort of think of it 40, 50, but at 17,
Yeah,
that
these
is
are
a very
kids.
early age. And so how did he feel, though, once? Because I've watched some of this procedure. Whoa, is that painful or what?
It looks sore, doesn't it? It's not though. It's just damn itchy afterwards. You can't scratch your head, and just for the fear of pulling out all the little precious hairs that you've just stuck in.
Right.
Um, I mean, the thing is it lasts. This does last forever. Those hairs that come back, that make it through, and not every single one does, but they won't there be subject to that same hormone that makes us lose our hair in the first place, but that gives us a killer ability to grow a big old beard and body hair everywhere else. So that's one trade-off that us men get as a result of not being able to grow it on the top of our head. But I like to think that it really wasn't a gift, or it's really just a reshuffling of hair. We didn't give him anything new, and I didn't get anyone else's hair. I just got it moved around a little bit, and because that's what it is.
Now, so you've given your son, but you sound a really confident man. So I wouldn't think that the loss of your hair had affected your confidence in later years. Maybe it did when you were young and first losing it. But so why did you decide to have the hair transplant as well?
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, well. I wouldn't say I'm overly confident. I hope not. But
Well, you sound
I
good. You
certainly,
sound good.
but I Thanks, but it certainly did affect me. I can remember as a young man, and it was. I even tried the old regain stuff. I think that's all kind of bound to the history, along with Brute and Old Spice. Although some people love it, but I remember trying that stuff, and it just, and it was almost like a dirty word. It felt like you were kind of buying something from the top shelf, and my mum and no one knew that I was,
Right.
that it affected me that much. But so it really did, and it did it in such diverse ways that it wasn't obvious. You can imagine it was difficult perhaps when you were out with friends or interested in a new girl, and you were really conscious, and that you thought that's the only thing they see, or the wind was blowing and you would be conscious of it, or you'd do the comb over kind of thing. All of those were constantly on your mind. But you're right. Once I got married, but I can remember as a young man still feeling like I looked prematurely old. And when they knew you had how many kids we did, it was like, well, when I was early mid-20s, I was already 40, So those labels were all there, and many of them were said by friends in good jest. But it did affect you. But yeah, that's been long ago now. And whilst I'm not one of those cool dads, they're going on to sports day and they've got a full head of hair. It didn't. I kind of looked like the last Boy Scout, and my wife didn't. Seemingly she did a great job. It didn't bother her, but I just felt when the opportunity came up, I thought, why not?
Why not?
And I was more anxious of what I might look like rather than wanting to, have my hair back. Where my son was, wanting to, not prepared to to face losing his hair at such a age. I was more curious and a little bit fearful of what I actually might look like.
And how do you feel? How do you look? And how does your son look?
Well, for me, I think it's great to be able to sprout a few new ones on there. I've got these little baby hairs coming through,
Right.
and I quite like it. All I like to feel is the fuzz. I'm never going to go and have long hair. I'm not going to look like a Rooney or a South American footballer that has it just above their eyebrows. But I didn't want that. I didn't want to try and look like I did when I was, when I had all my hair. Rather, I just wanted to. I've got sort of still a very receding hairline, but I wanted it like that. I just wanted it. I didn't want the little monk
Just wanted
patch,
a bit more. Yeah, I know what
didn't
you
want that
mean.
little, and I wanted to have what I had to look kind of okay. But my hair's still as short as it was when I had no hair, because I actually like that. But
Yeah, I
there's
know
what's
what you
in the
mean.
inside.
But when you look at them when they first started off and how they are now, I mean, I do remember Russ Abbott having a hair transplant, and I mean he's spoken about it, and it didn't quite work. Whereas now you look at James Nesbitt, it's hard to imagine him as he was without having without his sort of receding hairline, because it was. And how does your son feel? How has it affected him? Has it given him his confidence back?
Yeah, Owen is this is really early on, so I kind of got to see that. So when you look at those pictures and you go, do you know what? It doesn't really look any different. And whilst photos are difficult to see, especially both of us are blonde. I've got a few little silver ones in there now, but most of it's blonde, and so it's harder to see. But it takes, we're only a few months after having the treatment. It takes a good 9 to 18 months before it really comes through and thickens up, just like baby's hair does. But you can see it, and so for him, he can see that transition happening. He can feel these things coming in areas where they weren't before, and it has. And so that's just given him that change. It's just a tiny little change, orientation different, but that he doesn't. Before he would dress, where he was all bubbly before, he would just be retiring, and in every kind of setting, it just knocked the shine kind of off everything, because he was constantly aware that he was different than most young men. Not when you're older, and I know that can affect anyone differently. But I'd just like to say, it's not about just being vain, and because I don't think we're really like that. I was out there with the chickens and the goats this morning, and I don't live a lifestyle like that.
Are they, Roger? The thing is, they're not going to notice. Roger, we've run out of time, but thank you very much indeed. Do let us let us know how it all is in 9 and 18 months, won't you? Get in contact with us and let us have a picture or something, because that'd be brilliant.
Sure, you bet.
Thank you very much indeed. So Roger Bigwood from Little Baddow gave his son Owen a hair transplant for his 18th birthday. Do you think that's a really good thing for a family to do, to look after their boy, because they felt he's losing his confidence, he's losing his hair at 17 and he's losing confidence as well? How important is it to keep that confidence? I'll speak next to Emma Citron. She's going to be joining me. She's clinical psychologist. Is it a good thing to do, to change that? If you're losing confidence, change the way you look. 0300 200 40 41. Would you do it if you could? Do you wish that your mum and dad had been able to give you a hair transplant? Are you a baldy out there? Well, I love them. Now, I wonder whether you would have liked to have had a hair transplant Would going bald knock your confidence? And would you do what Roger's done and give your child a hair transplant? Ladies, is there anything wrong with a bald man? 0300 240 41. Joining me now is clinical psychologist Emma Citron. Morning to you, Emma.
Good morning, Sadie.
Thanks for holding on there. You were listening there to what Roger was saying about his son. He seemed to have been losing his confidence. They'd noticed his wife had noticed that his son was losing confidence as he was losing his hair. Can you understand that, how that young man and how other young men feel if they're going bald?
I think Roger described that very sensitively, and we got a very clear picture of how this had impacted on his child's confidence and sense of self, if you like. He was describing how he'd become more withdrawn. He wasn't perhaps going out as much as he wanted, would have liked to have done, because he just didn't feel good about himself. It made me think, I don't know about you, but it made me think, I wish this was available on the NHS. I mean, maybe it is, but as far as I know, it isn't. It's considered, quotes, cosmetic. But I think there's an argument a bit like with skin tucks and various weight reduction programs that perhaps from a mental health point of view, this should be available on the NHS, because I think Roger described very touchingly how much this had actually impacted on his own life when such things were not available.
Is this, though, an extreme or a sensible solution? I mean, could it be that maybe that's part of life, or it throws at you and you have to, you have to get over it? But I think some people deal with going bald much better than others.
I think Roger also mentioned the other point, that this is a terribly young age.
Yes, 70.
One thing even in your late 20s, when perhaps you're already settled with a partner and you've already got a stable job or whatever it is. But I mean, this could have huge repercussions if it's going to stop a young person from putting themselves forward for, job applications, or it's going to make them resistant to dating because they just think they look old and awful. I mean, that's major. So, I see this, what Roger did, almost really actually close to a necessity rather than any sort of cosmetic or gift or luxury. And I think he himself was very keen to move away from that. They're obviously, as he says, not that kind of family out doing the chickens, which I thought was lovely.
Absolutely.
Very down to earth, but very caring. And I think that really shone through.
What can be the impact of low self-esteem in young adults?
It's devastating. It's a bit like if people I sometimes see in my clinic have a fear of bad breath, even though, they clean their teeth thoroughly and they've done all the mouthwashes they want to or whatever. Some people, it actually becomes almost like a phobia. They stop going out. They open the car windows to make sure there's plenty of air because they've convinced themselves that their breath smells, even though their friends tell them it doesn't. And I can see that going down this road too with boys like Roger's son, that, it has a major impact on them and it can actually devastate their lives. And we may say, that's stupid, but actually we all have something that we're hung up about. And if there's something relatively cheap, and I doubt it was relatively inexpensive, but correctly so they chose to prioritize this over other things, then why not do it? I think it's a great idea. One does have to be not in this person's case, because every individual case is, of course, totally different, but be a bit careful of the so-called slippery slope, that not with this family, but, others might, you could see women sort of getting boob jobs and then thinking, maybe I'll have a nose job, and it becomes almost a sort of then a psychiatric problem that they're never happy. And I think I would like to think that there are very good screening processes in place for these procedures, and I think in some places those psychological screenings are probably better than in others. Some are probably more ethical than others because, let's face it, this is big business. So I would like to think that if a young girl, for example, of the similar age, 17, 18, was very concerned about the size of her chest, that was given a lot of consideration before she was offered a reduction operation.
It doesn't. It always worries me when things are done for fashion. I mean, just a while ago we had like who can get the biggest breasts, and now of course all the celebrities seem to be having theirs reduced. And of course the youngsters who've gone out and got the big breasts because it's in fashion, and it's like the tattoos, they can't then have them taken down, or it costs more money. It does worry me. Whereas this doesn't seem to be for a fashion. This seems to be for self-esteem and confidence. And as you and I know, confidence is everything really in this life. It's just you've got a chance in life if you have some confidence, and to instill that in your child. But with men, I mean, women seem to be, I mean, I haven't had any because I've never been happy with anything in my life. I've changed everything in my life, to the curtains, to the bedspreads, to I've bought a house and wondered why I bought it. I have a car I'm never happy with. So imagine me having something done and then going, oh no, I don't quite like it. And I saw someone recently on telly who's obviously had her eyes done, and I actually thought one eye's higher than the other. It's quite scary. So I'd never be happy, so I haven't had it done. But why is it more prevalent in women having work done rather than men?
I think I don't know what the exact figures are on that, but I think it's becoming more and more prevalent in men to make changes too. And I don't think any of it is quotes for fashion, actually. I think if somebody goes for a chest reduction or expansion, that is a major op. I mean, the recovery is pretty grim.
But they don't realise that, I think, some people. They're not sold it as that. I know that as well, because I've been through that, but for health reasons. But it's massive and blooming painful as well.
Yes, and absolutely, and can, not always, but can have repercussions for feeding offspring in the future and all sorts of things. So I think, I hope that good screening is in place for all these things, because I think psychologically these things are important for positive reasons, but we also have to make sure that we're not dealing with the never satisfied brigade in terms of being able to offer those people proper psychological support in order to feel better about themselves for how they are. Now,
you look at some celebrities, I mean, Michael Jackson always springs to mind, and you think how sad that situation was. And there's a picture in the paper today of a man who's had about 30 operations on his nose or something, about to lose it, and is going in for his other one. So this certainly isn't the case here. But thank you so much for joining us, Emma.
Pleasure.
A real pleasure to have you on. Clinical psychologist Emma Citron, thank you very much indeed.